stream out while I share this with a few people. Okay, got that. Let's see. Does this look okay? I don't know, this chat overlay isn't that great. Let's see. So if I go in here, I think I could just change it live. I think a lot of the time it's going to be on a dark background, so it's probably fine. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to test this out. Hello there. That's kind of fine. It could be white, but that's fine. Okay, so we'll tweet that out. And then let's go over here, paste this here. Okay, we'll share that. Close that, close this. Let's share with this chat, live streaming. Oops, okay, creating custom web app framework, blah, blah, blah. We can delete this hashtag because it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Post that, and let's share, oops, I didn't mean to go there. Hey guys. And tomorrow is stream starting in 5 minutes. So by if you want to talk UI design, web development, or my custom web app framework. I'll also do a tutorial on something related to web development or design. Okay, cool. Oh, shoot. I should post the Twitch. Sullivan, how's it going? It's been a while. How are you doing? Are you working today? Let's see. Hey guys. I'm live streaming some coding today for 3 hours. Working on a low code. These guys are really excited about low code. I am also going to turn off this audio because it's nerve-wracking hearing my voice mirrored back to me. Really bad migraine, finally feeling normal enough to open lights and hear things, just in time it seems. Awesome. I'm sorry about the migraine though, I know how horrible that can be. I get really intense like pressure in my head sometimes. I'm pretty sure that's what a migraine is. But yeah, they're like totally disabling, like I can't even go outside sometimes. I'm working on a remake, so I've gotten the framework to a point where it's almost ready to release. And actually a friend of mine wants to have me give him a tutorial on it this Friday. So I'm like prepping for that. So I'm probably going to work on the documentation, add a couple new features so that the tutorial's wicked easy for him, and then work on his tutorial for him. And then I'll finish the stream with probably a tutorial chosen by chat. So it might be on Remake.js, but it might be on React or CSS Grid or something else. Yeah, so that's what I'm up to. Are you just recovering today? Are you taking it easy? It sounds like you should probably take it easy. Working on a low-code web app framework that I designed myself. Come stop in if you're interested. Cool. What kind of front-end stuff? Is there anything like you're learning, or is it like something you've already been working on? Okay, so I posted there. I think I posted everywhere that I should post. So watch people code, Twitter, product code makers, work in progress chat, happy learners, substreams, Facebook. I don't think I posted here, but I actually don't know how to post here. Yeah, maybe I'll sign up for this. You get to see my email address. I think you're the only one here right now, Sullivan. So that's good. At least not everyone will see my email address. Oh no, I don't want to go to my email. I'm gonna put it on secret real quick. Just because, I don't know, I might have like something in my email that might not be good to show. Secrets. So you said your fandom site thing. Oh, okay. You're circling the ORM this week, so I'm trying to build the front a bit with mock data. Oh, nice. Yeah, I always feel like if you get the design kind of like, you get everything designed first, it makes it so much more exciting to implement. Um, so yeah, usually I start in Sketch and like I'll work on the design for like months, and then uh, and then I'll build it out after that. Ooh. Okay, cool. So I guess this added, so I can close my email and turn back on the real screen. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does take a little bit extra, but you can always just design in code too. Are you using like a front-end framework to help with the design? Yeah, I added an overlay. Did you see it? Is it? It should be better now. Someone last stream suggested that I add an overlay. Oh, it's you, Shanovsky. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, you're right. What happened? Um, let's see. Oh no. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it would do this. How is that? Is that like a good size? I just don't want it to cover too much of the screen. This is just awkward. It's just like the video overlaid on the video. That's terrible. Okay. Oh, shoot. I think it should be better now. Is it better? Do I have to stop streaming? I think it should be better. Let me change this to, yeah, I'm going to report myself. Okay, let's go here. Live streaming, web development, let's say like development on a custom web app framework followed by a web dev tutorial chosen by chat. Nice. Okay, cool. That looks good. Let's see, what did you say? It's definitely better. Do you think I should make it smaller or bigger, or do you think it's a good size? Okay, I'm glad I posted on ship streams. Okay, so let's see. We've got this tutorial topic questionnaire ready to go. Okay, smaller. How about there? Is that good? Let's see if that works better. Okay, so today I think I'm going to start with doing some documentation, but first I'm going to get up the code I was working on yesterday because I was pretty excited about how that was turning out. Hey, Slow Cool, how's it going? Let us know if you have any questions, or tell us about what you're working on today. Nice. Okay, so I see the timing has improved this week on Twitch. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I got I can't unplug it to show you, but look, I'm connected via Ethernet. I got a USB to Ethernet adapter. I set it up a couple days ago, and then I got a really long Ethernet cord that can snake all the way into my living room, so that I can stream without dropping so many frames. Yeah, I like did so much work on the stream this week. I mean, it's not like a lot, but it's a lot for me. Like to set up the overlay was like a half an hour of research, and then to set up the Ethernet was it was a little bit of like an hour. I don't know. It was not that much work, but still, um, it was fun. It was good. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys. So this is my current build process. I've been I've been a web developer for a long time, but still, my build process is copying and pasting multiple commands in the command line, one after another. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, and then let's. Oh wait. Oh, I'm not. Geez, I'm not in the right directory even. Great start to the stream. Okay, so we'll go into remake test. Okay, so now I can paste them in. Do that. Do that. Yeah, I think I can just set this up as as a npm script. I think I can just like add this all to like dev, and I think I can just do like and after each one. I think so, right? That should work, right? If I just do like that. I'm not like an expert on the command line. Definitely not. But I want the thing is if I do this, I'm gonna lose the debug messages, right? Like I have this like parcel stuff compiling the JavaScript, and then I have nodemon restarting the server. So I like want to see the server debug or console logs, and I want to see which one's this? This one's live reload. I don't care about this one, but I want to see the output from parcel, and I want to see the output from nodemon. But if I do this and thing, I don't think I see the output from all of them. I don't know. I could try it, I guess. Just see what happens. So if I just paste that in there, and then let's close all these. And then if I just do npm start dev, or is it run dev or start dev? I never can remember. npm run dev start dev. It's start, right? Yeah, it's start. Okay, so now if I go to localhost 3000, yeah, it's working. No, but I was just wondering, so is it npm start or run? I was just confused about that command. But yeah, the dev one is the one I specified here. So now I think I'm getting the, I thought it was start. It's not start. I really thought it was start. It's run. What? Okay, here we go. It's the same thing, I guess. So npm test, start, restart, and stop, and npm are all aliases. Um, ooh, concurrently. Just use. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I want. Okay, let's do that. So let's install this. I'll close this. So we'll install that, and then we do concurrently kill others. Kill others. It's, you know what's weird? Developers are super weird. They name things super weird sometimes. Kill, like, they couldn't think of another name for like ending a process. Kill. Okay. So concurrently, I don't know what kill others does. I guess we could look it up. npm, oops, concurrently. Um, kill others. Oh, all commands are killed if one ends. Okay, that makes sense. I'm okay with that. So we'll do this, and we have to escape the quotes. So we'll do that, and then we're going to do escape quote. We'll do that. And I guess we're just pasting in a bunch of quotes here. Yeah. You're hunting for how to run it all in the background and watch all the logs. I I think this will do that, right? Because that was the person's question. So I think this might do that. Um, so then I wrap it all in quotes. Okay, so that should work, maybe. So let's do npm, and now I'm confused about run or start. I'll just start dev. So server listening on port 3000. Now if I modify a JavaScript file, um, the, yeah, the parcel should have had an output message there, but I think I'm just getting the nodemon message. So if I go into the main.js for nodemon, I do like console log 123. Huh? Um, is it, should I really do npm run? I don't know. I mean, sometimes, what? Okay, so now, now it's working. Now it's like all about outputting everything. Okay, so I guess start wasn't the right thing to do. I guess you run is the thing. Yeah, you were totally right. Okay, so now if I change this to like 345, um, yeah, so yeah, it refreshed and it showed me the refresh, and then it's gonna show me the console login here once I enable live reload here. Nice. Okay, awesome. So this is going to be a lot of information in one console. I almost like want to silence uh, live reload. Like I really don't care about live reload's output. Have you used it before? It's really cool. I mean, I think Wes Boss, he's like one of my idols, but I think he used it in his project. I I I started my last Node project based on a framework that was created by him. Hey Sebastian 13 and hey Commander Root. How you guys doing? Uh yeah, it's wow, it's so good. Um I wonder if I can silence live reload to show debug messages. Oh, I'm actually telling it to show me debug messages by passing in slash dash D. Like a crazy person. Okay, so there we go. Now let's npm run dev. Uh, and now if I do like that, live reload's not going to tell me anything. That's awesome. And I also don't really want to know about NodeMon. I don't know. Maybe there's an option that it just won't tell me like successful things. You know how like the philosophy of Unix is kind of like if you if it succeeded, don't say anything, but if it errored, then say something. Maybe uh, NodeMon has something like that. What are the specs of that Mac? By the way, how are you? Sebastian, I'm curious, do I know you? Are you a Sebastian that I know, or are you a random person? So these are the specs. Retina, 15-inch, mid 2015, 2.2, 16 gigabytes of memory, Iris graphics, Iris Pro graphics. I got this on eBay because if you get like a MacBook Pro that's a couple years old, you can usually get it for like half off compared to a new one from Apple. And it's usually pretty good stats too. Um, so I wonder if you can silence this. Silence. Okay, cool. Random person. My cousin is named Sebastian, and he like asked about the stream the other day, so I thought you might be him. But it's cool. You are welcome here, even though you're not my cousin. I'm a little sad, but um, that's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually not sad at all. It'd actually make me more nervous if you were my cousin. So I'd be like, oh no, like if I say anything weird, now my whole family's gonna know about it. Okay, dash Q. So nodemon dash Q dash E, and then we're gonna do dash Q at the end. And then let's restart this. And now hopefully we're not gonna get anything from nodemon. Even if it restarts. Nice, that's awesome. Nice. I saw your Sullivan, I saw your Twitter feed, and it had you like I think you reposted something from a person who worked on something for streamers. It's like a notification app for streamers. And Icecream Codes. Plane just landed and you're getting ready to deboard. Okay, awesome. I hope you have a great day, Icecream Codes. Is that your brother, Sullivan? I was just curious because I think you described him once and it seemed like the same. Oh, that's not your brother. Oh, okay. That's Jamie Pine. Oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. I thought you were like, did you say like your brother was wicked tall or? Oh no, 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 it was like that he had hair like mine. I don't even know at this point if that guy has hair like mine, but for some reason I thought it matched what you said your brother looked like. Um, okay, so get started. So Jay asks, am I using TypeScript or Webpack? I am using neither. I'm using Parcel because I don't like Webpack. I use Webpack at work. I use Webpack for one of my other projects. I use Webpack a lot, and it's just tiresome to set it up every time. So I'm trying out Parcel right now, and it's a lot nicer. I think a lot of people are going to switch over to it. And TypeScript, so this is definitely an uncommon opinion in the modern front-end development world, but I absolutely despise TypeScript. Like I think it's not a reasonable thing to feel. I just have um, I just have an affinity for like regular JavaScript. I've been hacking on projects using regular JavaScript for 10 years. So I just kind of like it. I think I'm probably a little bit too old school. You know, like everyone's raving about TypeScript, so I should probably use it. Um, and I think I probably will because there's this new guy at work and he's all about like the most modern, practices. And so he's probably going to like switch us over to TypeScript sometime in the next 3 to 4 months, and I'll have to get over my hatred of it. But yeah, that's my story about TypeScript. Uh, oh, he took down his team look pictures? That stinks. I keep all of my history on Facebook. Yeah, on Facebook. It's only useful in large projects. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same thing about Webpack and like frameworks in general. You know, like if you're hacking on like a quick weekend project, I feel like you're going to be, or I would be like so much more productive just using like plain JavaScript or like a really simple framework. Like even just like jQuery, right? Like everyone's like jQuery's dead now, but for like a simple project where you just like have a form and you have a database, jQuery's fine. And then I feel like once you get to like 2 or 3 people, like you definitely want to have a framework because it's just going to create like a standard coding style. You're going to have like, you know, one data store and you're going to write all the methods on that data store and you're going to have like a way to write components. Um, so Solvin says that she likes using TypeScript if I know my colleagues aren't as comfortable using JavaScript writing tests. Super helpful. Yeah, I think like that definitely makes sense. I think it's one of those things that's like for the individual, it like sucks a tiny bit, but then for the team, it makes everyone overall more happy. Um, and then I think even I think the trade-off is still good even if you're a solo developer, because the problem with coding or I mean, the problem with any creative venture is that like when you come back to it a year later or even 6 months later, it feels like a totally different person that created it. So writing it in like a standard coding style where it's easier to understand what's happening is definitely useful. Um, okay, so I've got this new build process set up. um, so we're using concurrently, and then we're doing live reload, nodemon, and parcel. I don't actually know if I have to use all of these, but I really, really like having the server refresh and then the browser refresh and have everything compile, where I want it. Um, and so, yeah, now I have this, right? And so now whenever I change a file, the server is going to refresh first, and then my browser is going to refresh automatically. So that's pretty cool. And it took me a while to actually figure out all of these tools. It was like getting to the point where it was driving me crazy yesterday, because I was just using Parcel and a package called Browser Refresh. And so it would like refresh sometimes and not refresh other times, and sometimes it would give me a 404, and it was just like a nightmare. And now that I'm using Live Reload with nodemon and Parcel, it's working perfectly. Okay, so let's open up GitHub, and I'm gonna just say, like, well, let's see how many packages this thing added. Look at this, isn't it crazy? I installed one package concurrently. It's called concurrently, and it installed all of this, all of these packages. That's crazy. Okay, so we'll just say npm run dev. That's a fine Git message. My Git messages are definitely a lot worse when I'm working solo too. It's just like cleanup. These ones are okay, but like, I don't know, what's another one? Update docs. That tells me nothing. Um, Perky81, VNK, and Virgo Pros. How you guys doing? I'm working on a framework right now. I just got my build process working a lot better. So now the browser's refreshing, the server's refreshing, everything's working. I'm going to work on documentation for Remake first. Oh, but hey, let me show you guys what I did. So I made Remake work the other day, like kind of how I expect it to. So I want to show you what that looks like. What's this test file? I don't think I need this. No, I'm going to delete this directory. So deleting these, cleaning these up is just going to make this easier to understand. I think I can delete this too. Okay, so we have one page here called home, and then we have footer, head, and to-do for partials. And so let's go into the config. The config's super simple. We're just passing in some data, the title, and then we have a route that we're matching. And this route is using Express.js's like built-in router. So you can like put like a custom, what do you call it? A route parameter here. So you can be like, user ID or something, and it'll parse that for you. But here, this is the main thing. So this is the main template, and then this is the sub-template right here that's referenced here. And this is an entire web application. Like this is, so this is kind of the idea behind NJK is nunjucks. It's a templating language created by Mozilla, so the creators of Firefox, and it's super powerful and like just like simple. I really like how simple it is. Like like when I do something with the technology and it just works, I really like that because it just feels intuitive. And this has kind of been like that. I was using Pug before, but I wanted to introduce Remake.js to a lot of people, and so I wanted to use a syntax that was more familiar to people. So I wanted to choose a template syntax that felt more like HTML. So this is just like writing regular HTML, and then you write these little curly brackets with percent signs in order to include like custom code, like partials, or to write like JavaScript inline. Yeah, it's heavily inspired by Jinja. That they actually mention that as like the first line on their in their docs. Um, so this is like an entire web app right here. And if you include this right here, so this to-do item is rendered right in here, right? And it's being rendered like based on the data, which is why we need to use an include. I guess we don't have to use an include, but there's another reason too, which is being able to add new to-dos. We're going to render this to-do template in order to insert it. But like, so these data attributes here are everything that makes it possible. These are everything you need in order to make this web app over here that is editable. So you can click on each of these items, you can remove them or save them. So this is new, this like inline edit area. So you can remove them, or save them and update them, right? So I can put like an exclamation point after this and save it, and it's saved. And if I refresh, it actually saved. So this editing ability is built in just using this very, very simple attribute called data editable, and it has this little extra with remove flag. That means that you get that remove button. So without that remove flag, if we just remove that and refresh, we're just not going to have the remove button, so we can't remove our to-dos. But if we put with remove back, we'll get that remove button back. And then it just says like, okay, this is what you're editing on the item. You're editing the text. And then you're saying how it's going to be editable. So if you put in multiline here, it's going to create like a text area instead of an input. See how we have this text area that auto expands? And those are the only two areas that, the only two form fields that we have right now. But in the future, you'll be able to put in like number here, and then you can like edit it with like a number input. You'll be able to put like date, you'll be able to put color, if you want to like use this to edit a color, and then you'll get like a color picker in the input that looks really nice. But for now, we're just going to have text single line. And then you have this data, and this is the data that the to-do has. So it's just the text for now. And then this attribute just says like, hey, watch this text data, and whenever it changes, change the inner text of this element. So it's pretty simple. And so yeah, that's one thing to know, is that the data is always stored on the element. So like if we go into this and we go into the to-do item, we can see that like we have this data output key text equal to the text that's in here. And so so what the framework is doing is like whenever we edit this in here, build like a snowplow. So if we type this in here and we click save, it's going to change the data in the attribute, and then the watch attribute is going to be responsible for updating the text inside of the element. So the data key updates first, and then the watch key updates the DOM. And that's just so like you can use the data in other ways. So like you don't have to, it could be like the data could be for like hiding or showing something, right? It wouldn't necessarily have to be text on the page. Yeah, so let's go back to, or let's do like flying car, spaceship. And then this over here, this is like a save attribute, and this is going to save all of the data on the page. And it's going to save it to like a /save endpoint on the back end automatically, and like merge all of the data into there. And it compiles the data from all of the data attributes on the page. So like this tells the save attribute that like, hey, this is a list. So we want to compile all the to-dos into an array. And then on the to-do item, it says like, oh, okay, this is an object. right? And the object has a key of text and a value equal to whatever's in here. So whatever that's replaced with. So it's able to like quickly serialize the DOM. If we do this like get data from root node, and we do like document body, you can see that we're just going to get the to-dos in a list. But we're also getting this this extra text thing because we're calling this on the document body, and we should actually be calling it on the app. So if we call it on the app, so we go like get element by ID. Then we'll just get the to-dos. The reason this other text thing is coming in here is we have that inline edit area, right? So like this thing, and that's in a different part. That's in like this auto-generated area, and that has data on it too. So like the inline edit area works just like the rest of Remake.js. It's gonna attach data to itself and then sync with the other data on the page. So like you can just see like very simply, it just has this data output key text on it. And so it's going to sync back with the original text, and that's how this is populated. So like if I change this, and then I cancel it, and then I open it up again, it doesn't have that exclamation point again, and that's because it's syncing with the data that's on the page. And the reason it's syncing is because it has this data sync attribute right here. And that just tells it, hey, if this gets opened from and it's triggered by an element with data on it, then sync that element's data into this element. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire. This is like an entire web app. Oh, and then this last thing. So this button adds a new item to a list. So that's how like this is working. So if I click like add to do, and I refresh, we get like a permanent new to do. And we can change these, of course. Hey, Levels.io. Levels.io. You're not the Levels.io. Are you like a huge fan of his, or are you the Levels.io? That would be pretty cool. But yeah, so this button says, hey, render this to-do template. So you can see this partial back here is named to-do. So it's just going to go into the backend. It's going to look up a partial that's called to-do. It's going to render it. What? No. Are you serious? Wait. Levels.io. You're Peter Levels? You're that guy? I think you're awesome, dude. I really admire you. Oh, that's so cool. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Thanks, dude. That's wow. Yeah, I like read like a few of your blog posts like pretty early on, and they were like super inspiring. Like back when you're first getting started with the like one app a month, and I'm just like seeing your projects just like increase in popularity like over time, and like you start like making money. You know, I thought the project you did with the map was like really cool. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, if you oh yeah, I actually I caught a little bit of that. I caught like afterwards when you posted it to Twitter, I caught like part of it. That's awesome. Yeah, I think like that those kinds of apps are really cool where you can combine like the real world with like what people are saying and doing. Like Google had this app. I know there's like Pokemon Go, but Google had this app where you could like actually take over spots on Earth, and then like you would like yeah, exactly, and you would like network with other people and like try to take over certain locations. I think it's still a thing, and people are like super into it. But I think like like right now like there's like the digital world and there's the physical world, and I feel like they're still a little bit too separated. But like if there are ways to like um, didn't that become no? So Google has like an AR game, Ingress. Um, I think it still exists. Oh yeah, it's based on it. That's awesome. Yeah, I think like this is like the future. You know, like I think there's going to be a Facebook in this area in this realm, and they're just going to like take over the world. You know, like because you have like you have like things you saw them in the Netherlands locking years ago, like hundreds in Ingress. Yeah, it's like it's super trippy playing the game because you're like, this isn't real, but I'm playing it like it's real and like it matters. And I think eventually, like it's gonna be real and it's gonna matter, you know? Um, I don't know. All you need is like digital currency, permanent AR objects, and people that care enough about that. Yeah. But I thought it was super cool that you did that as a solo developer. It made me think like, oh man, I could do that too. So it's like super inspirational to see that. I I really appreciate you like sharing that all with the world and the community. Um, if you if you're ever interested in getting like a quick tutorial on this on this framework I'm creating, I'm like looking for feedback from developers. So like if you ever want to do like a call or something, maybe we could set that up. Um, okay, so this button that's like data I knew, um, yeah, that would be super cool. So yeah, this is just this gets two arguments. So this is going to be like the template, the partial name. I'm curious, Levels, what are you working on now? Do you have like a new project in the works, or are you mostly focused on what is it called? Your main thing, the coders who travel the world and work remotely. What is it called? I'm not looking at the screen. I have to think of it. Oh, it's people who, ooh, digital nomads. Nomads, what is it called? Nomad. Nomad pad? It's not Nomad pad. I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. Nomad, how do I, how can I not remember this? Nomad list, Nomad list. Are you mostly working on Nomad list or are you working on some other things? Um, 5.0 is launching soon. An airline list launching next. Awesome. What what's airline list? Yeah, I think I would like so you were gonna do I yeah, I shouldn't I shouldn't call you out on stream, right? No, no, you know what it reminded me of? So like you were doing 12 apps in 12 months and then like Nomad List hit and it got super popular and then like a few other of your apps got super popular. And so I don't think did you ever finish the 12 apps? I'm curious, did you have like a plan for the rest of them? But I know like once you're like super successful with like a few of them, yeah. Did you ever hear about there's Sufjan Stevens? Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, once it like gets big enough, it's like working on like 15 different apps at the same time, I'm sure. But yeah, Sufjan Stevens, he's like this really, I don't know, I think he's like a real super, like one of the best musical artists. He released this like beautiful album called Illinois, and before that, he released an album called Michigan. And he said he was gonna release an album for every state, and it was just going to be based on like the history of the state and the culture and everything. And I really love uh, him and what he was working on. Yeah, super ambitious. But then he just stopped. I think after like three states, and he said it was like a joke. He said he said that he had been joking that like he didn't want it, he wasn't really planning on doing all of them. But I think he totally set out with doing all of them, but then he was just like, this is really hard, and each album is taking like 3 years of my life, and so it was like a really good goal to like get him motivated. Um, but but like once it got super successful and he started getting involved in other things, um, yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, who knows with this like the no code and the low code movement like getting bigger, you might be able to like you know pull out an app like once a week, or if the no code tools get good enough. Yeah, yeah, I think the journey is, yeah. I Yeah, totally. I don't I and think ML Neuro GAN networks green rating apps. Um, so machine learning, I don't know what that means. Oh, neuro generate. I don't know a lot of what that sentence means. Oh, okay, so this is generating. And think machine learning neuro GAN networks generating apps. Um, that I don't know what that means actually. Generative adversarial networks. Um, oh, okay, yeah. Like if AI, um, no, I think so. I think that's gonna happen. Um, yeah. I mean, there's just so, I think like a certain type of app, like CRUD apps at this point, and it's insane to me that they're still so hard to build. Like you have to set up user accounts every time, you have to set up a database every time, you have to back up your database. Like stuff like Firebase makes it a little bit easier, but just the concept should be super easy by now. Yeah, it's totally insane. It should just be like, I want an app to create, read, update, and delete things, and I want like a list of these items here and a list of that items there, and that's it. And it's just like it should be super, super simple at this point, but it's not. I know there's like a ton of like super complicated details about it, and that's like what really makes an app special. But yeah, I totally think that. But it's scary, isn't it scary? Um, so just by the way, anyone in chat who doesn't know who Levels.io is, you should Google him. He set out with the goal of creating a lot of apps all at once, and some of them became super successful. And he has a really, really good blog. I would strongly recommend checking out Levels.io blog if you want to get some inspiration for creating your own stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think programmers are going to be out of jobs, but there's something that worries me, I don't know, a little bit more than that. Um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, high level programmers. Yeah, most devs aren't super high level. I mean, I think it's more fundamental than that, though. Like, I think it's more about like, um, so there's this book called Freedom Trademarked, and it's kind of like a trashy fiction a little bit, but I really liked it. It's about this guy who dies, and he like sets this AI virus free after he dies, and it's supposed to like defend his house and then like create this huge puzzle for humanity to figure out. And so like the first book is just like the FBI like trying to dismantle the virus, and then the second part is like people using AI to take over the world. And this one guy figures out how to hack into self-driving cars. And so he has like a fleet of hundreds of self-driving cars that he just like takes all around the country, and he can just like pretty much control everyone, because he just like says like, oh, you cars, like, go kill those people, and like you cars, like, go ram down this, house or whatever. And it's like super powerful. And I just worry that like putting so much power in the hands of kind of like a single switch or a single button. It's called Freedom TM. It's definitely one of the best sci-fi novels I've read. It's really, really cool. It's like I mentioned, it's a tiny bit trashy, just in terms of like it's not super believable, some of the things, and it does a little bit of fan service, but it's still one of my favorite books. But uh, Demon is the first book. Freedom TM, so like trademarked. So the first book is called Demon, like the computer demon, and then the other one is like Freedom TM. So this is book one, which is still really, really good. But this one is like the book to read, I think, in terms of like where I kind of see the um, like where the world could go in a bad way. Yeah, this one, Daniel Suarez. Yeah, yeah. It basically outlines like worst case scenarios, but also best case scenarios. Like kind of like what if life was a like more of a video game than it already is. Yeah. Um, with like super hackers pretty much being at the top of the food chain, and people who aren't as like connected to the network kind of being lower down, but then also having like kind of like individual AIs like running amok at the same time. It's kind of a scary and confusing world, and I think we're kind of heading that way, and I'm not sure it's it's great, because I think a lot of people are going to end up uh, suffering, and it's probably not going to be those people's fault. Um, but yeah, I mean, it could end up good too. Who knows? Yeah, it's true. It's true. It was always a weird time. Yeah. Um, yeah. Definitely makes me question a little bit what it means to be human. Like as things become as like computers become better than us at a lot of the things we pride ourselves on. Like everything from chess to Go to video games to, I mean, probably eventually writing and programming. I think it's gonna feel a lot different to be a human being in like 10 or 20 years than it feels today. It's just gonna be like you're gonna have to adopt your your mental models a lot in terms of like where you get your self-worth and your value from it. It's not going to be able to be like your intellectual prowess anymore in like 20 years. Yeah, no, you're preaching to the choir here. I feel you there. You feel like you're more on the internet than in real life right now. Totally. Yeah, it's pretty trippy. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool to be honest that like you can get a lot of your like connections and like your uh just like interact with people online and like be having like a really good time and like be creating stuff, and it almost feels like living in a different world. Yeah, this is pretty cool. and weird. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Um, I admire your lifestyle too, like being able to travel so much. That that seems pretty cool. You must meet like so many cool people. Um, yeah. No, it's no problem. It's honestly a pleasure talking with you. I think it's yeah, it's really cool that you joined and chatted for a little bit. I really appreciate it. Um, and if you want to like talk more like directly, feel free to reach out like on Twitter um, or whatever, and we can like schedule a chat if you want. That would be cool. Okay, so I'm gonna work on the documentation a little bit. Um, I'm gonna create like a gist. Um, oh, and let's see. So for anyone in chat who wants to vote on a topic that we're going to do a tutorial on at the end of the stream, uh, you can vote in on this Google form, and it has like a bunch of topics that we can go over. For the past couple streams, we did a tutorial on React.js, we did a tutorial on Flexbox, and we did a tutorial on CSS Grid. So if you guys want to learn about those, we can continue where we left off, or we can start over. But if we continue where we left off, we'll do like a quick review of what was there before. And then I'm going to move Remake.js a little bit closer to the top because I've been working on that a lot lately, and I'm giving a tutorial to someone tomorrow night. So it would actually be cool to get some practice in for like doing a tutorial on that. But I think I'll do a tutorial on it tomorrow anyways. So don't feel like you have to vote on that. Okay, so that was really cool. Just so you guys know, so that was Levels.io, and he has a website called Levels.io, and I would recommend if you guys are like interested in building products, just like check this blog out. A lot of it is like super inspirational, but then he has like some really, really cool, like vulnerable pieces too, like um, like de-stressing his job too. Like this is just like a super smart post about how like you need to make time for like not doing anything too, and that's going to help you out a lot. And then uh, there's like an older post. Oh, this one's really cool too. Like building a startup in public from first line of code to the front page of Reddit. And he goes through like all the different steps of like live streaming the project and like as it gotten more and more followers. So it's really cool to check that out just so you have like an idea if you want to do something like that yourself, like how you might do it. But the one I would, oh, and this is probably another really good one, just breathe. But the one I think is one of the best ones is, uh, geez, it's like an older one. Here it is. Nope, that's not that one. No, I thought that was, it's like when he started building his 12 apps in a year. And I think it was a while ago. Um, I think, But yeah, he talks a lot about like anxiety too. So he's like pretty open about his like world and what it's like doing things. Um, and then he talks about like how he builds like minimum viable products and like shares his stack and like how he deploys things. Um, but yeah, I think the let's see. I think it's down here. Yeah, this one. So like this is when he first got started, and he talks about how he plans to launch 12 startups in 12 months, and then you can like follow up. Oh no, it didn't scroll to where I was before. But you can like follow up with like his next posts and his previous posts, and you can kind of see like how he develops as a developer and like things that he learns as he like builds in public. And I think for anyone like looking to build a startup, it's like a really smart approach because you're not only like being vulnerable and getting that like social support from people, but you're also like marketing your startup and you're doing it in a way that's getting people involved. So it's like a different way. It's a new way of building a company, but I think it's super smart too. Um, so yeah, definitely check out his website. Okay, so I'm gonna create some documentation for Remake. So we're gonna have like a basic Remake.js app, and I'm gonna call this, I guess, like an HTML file. No, I'll do MD. Okay, so let's just add this in there, and we'll say like the like main code. So this is going to be like the main template, and then we're going to have like a partial template. And I don't know exactly what to call this partial template. Um, okay. So we'll say like parent template and then item template. And then we'll say like, this is an example of how to, I need to open the window. It's getting like hot in here. I'm getting pretty sweaty. So this is an example of how simple it is to build a web app with Remake.js using only HTML data attributes. And then we say like parent template, we have the to-do list, we have the app. Yeah, and we can like describe what is actually happening here. So actually I'm going to copy this into a markdown editor. And let's describe what's happening. So we'll do this and we'll say like, so on line 4, we use the data save deep attribute. So I'm writing this this documentation so that other people can understand what Remake is and how to use it. And I think I haven't quite gotten to the point where like someone can just like pick it up and use it. Like I think even with just these like templates, like if someone looks at this, they're just going to be like, what the heck's going on? So I think I need a simpler way of explaining things, but I'm going to keep creating documentation until I get to the point where things are just like super simple, super simple and basic. So I don't think I'm there yet, but I think by writing out this documentation, it's going to help me get there. So I'll just like explain each step. And someone who's like super curious can go in here and just start using Remake, but they'd have to be like they'd have to like really want to learn it. But I think eventually it's going to get simple enough so that there's just going to be like ideally like 4 data attributes and that or maybe 5, and then that'll be like an entire app. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're getting closer. Okay, so on line 4 we use the data o save deep attribute. This when it's triggered, it'll save all the data inside of it. We'll say data on the elements inside of it to, or we'll say like using a function called full page. Okay. On line 5, we use a data o type equals object attribute. This tells remake that the top level data on this page is we'll just say the data on this page is wrapped in an object. And we'll say like as opposed to an array. Okay. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So on line 9, I think, yeah, we use the data o key attribute. This makes all the data below it namespaced under this key. That's a little tough. So on line 9, we use data o key attribute. This makes all the data below it. This, let's say, this puts all the data, and we'll say like inside this element. This will put all the data inside this element into an we'll say like inside a key on the parent element. And we can do equal to do's, just so we have the full context. So on line 9, we use the data o key equal to do's attribute. This will put all the data that's inside this element, inside a key. So the GitHub is at remakejs.com. So if you can go to /panphora/remakejs. I'll link that in the chat. Or you can just go to remakejs.com. And that'll redirect you here. Yep, okay. So, and this documentation that I'm adding now is going to be up there as soon as I finish it. So on line 9, we use the data o key to do's attribute. This will put all the data that's inside this element into a key on the parent object. I'm very tired dude says they're working on a web framework too. That sounds awesome. Can you link to it so that the chat and I can see? If you have a link up yet, and if you don't, just tell us what it's about. On line 10, we use a data o type equals object or list attribute. This tells remake that the data inside this element should be wrapped in an array. Use a data type. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This tells Remake that the data inside this element should be wrapped in an array. I think that's kind of a decent way of saying it. So that's 10, 11, 12. So on line 12, we use the nunchucks templating language to loop over the data that's passed to this template on the back end. I think one thing I should clarify like pretty early on about this framework is that it's meant to be used with a server rendered app. So I think this is something I should add pretty early on. Remake.js is a dynamic front-end framework that's meant to be used with a server rendered web app. Okay. So I'm very tired dude says, no link yet, but the general idea is that I wanted to automate tedious tasks that come with writing up websites. So stuff like form management. That sounds really cool. Can you give us like an idea of like what kind of stuff it's going to do with forms? Like, is it going to, I don't know, automatically take data from the form and save it to a database? Or is it more along the lines of like validating the form? Or does it have more to do with like the UI? Or is it all of those things? Oh, Scala. That's interesting. Okay, so on line 12 we use the nunchucks templating language to loop over the data that's passed to this template. On line 13, we render a partial for every item in the data. Using nunchucks again. Okay. So that's line 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. On line, was it 18? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. On line 18, we use the data I new attribute with 2 arguments. One is to do, and the other is to do's. The first, this attribute, this tells Remake to create a new item and add it to the page. The first argument, I will say to do, is the name of the partial to render. And the second argument, to do's, is a selector to add the rendered template to. So I'm very tired dude says early stages. Right now I just want background magic to grab values and update state automatically instead of having to write a bunch of methods to do that. Oh yeah. Okay. That totally makes sense to me. So like I've used Remake for a couple, I've used React for a couple projects, and I use Vue.js at work. And one of the things that bothers me is like form handling, because for every form you have to like attach like a special prop or like some data, and then you need to like have an update method for it, and then that updates the state of the that's attached to the component, and then you have to have some way of like saving that state. So like if you could automate that, you know, and just like automatically grab all of the values, put them into an object, and then update the state automatically, whether you're using a framework or not, that would be super useful. I'm curious though, are you using a framework, or are you using like vanilla JavaScript to do this? It sounds like you're probably using a framework because you're saying update state, and that's usually um, uh, like framework type talk. Uh, uh, so underscore is a really cool package. I'm curious, anyone who's listening to this stream, how loud are the trucks outside? For me, the trucks are pretty loud, but I'm using these like Apple headphones with like the microphone pretty close to my mouth. So I'm kind of hoping that I'm not picking up a lot of the ambient noise from the street. But you can't, oh, that's awesome. You can't hear trucks. That's really good. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so underscore is a really cool library, but they have like a annotated source code thing. So a simple remake JS example with annotated source code. Okay, Icecream Codes says they don't hear them either. That's awesome. They're like super loud for me. I don't know if you guys want any background about my life, but like an entire like super busy intersection got rerouted onto my street. So there like you can no longer park on my street, even though you used to be able to, and now there's cars like going back and forth like it's a highway, and it's like right outside. Like so my street went from like super quiet to like super busy overnight, um, and that's why I'm a little worried about the noise. But I'm really glad you can't hear it. Okay, so let's do that. I think, yeah, I need two of these. Okay. I'm making a framework that includes form management as a feature, but it started as a library. I just wanted to make my own framework. That's really cool. I think that that's how this framework started too. I just had like a super simple library, and then I just kept adding on to it. It's funny how that can happen. Um, but that's awesome. I think it's like honestly not that hard to like create a pretty simple, pretty basic framework. Um, and if you can like imagine if you could just like modify React to work more the way that you think, you know, it should work. Um, I think that's like super powerful to just like, you know, figure out if it's possible, figure out what the problems are, because it's going to make it a lot easier to work with other frameworks too. And I think it just makes you a more well-rounded developer. Um, but I think like playing around with other frameworks is good too, because then you can like see what's out there and what, you know, like maybe you don't want to like rebuild something from scratch if someone already is doing it better. So you definitely want to like have a balance. But I think it's really cool. Okay, so on line, we'll say 1, 2, 3. On line 3, we use the data editable with remove attribute. When when an element with this attribute is clicked, an inline edit area will appear. The function pass to this attribute. We'll say like e.g. text is the data key. We'll say data key, or we'll say object key. Object key you want to modify inside the inline edit area. Well, the first argument to the function, I'll say e.g. text single line is the type of form field that's used inside the inline edit area. Okay. On line 3, we use the data editable with remove attribute. When an element with this attribute is clicked, an inline edit area will appear. The function passed to this attribute, for example, text, we'll say the function looking thing. The function looking thing passed to this attribute, for example, text, is the key. I'll say data key. The data key you want to modify, yeah. Well, the first argument to the function, for example, text single line, is the type of form field that will be used to modify this data. We'll say there's also a plain data editable attribute. There's also a plain data editable attribute for attribute that won't have a remove button. That we'll say like comes without a remove button. I have heard of Stimulus.js. I think it's a really powerful way of organizing JavaScript code. I think that even if you write jQuery, like just regular jQuery, you want to organize your jQuery code into something like Stimulus, just into that like format, you know, where like each module is editing a certain area of the DOM and it's responsible for that area. I think it's a really, really powerful idea, and I like it a lot. And this framework that I'm building right now is partially inspired by Stimulus, especially because Stimulus is also meant to work with like a server rendered web app, and I'm gonna just sit down because my legs are getting pretty tired. Yeah, so that's part of it. But yeah, I think it's a really cool idea. I've never used it in an app though. If anyone has used it in an app, let me know. I'd love to know. I'd love to talk about your experience with it. Okay. Regular data editable attribute. Okay, so we'll say on line 4, we use a data O type equals object attribute. This tells remake that the data on and inside this element is an object. And then I keep saying 1 instead of line 4, instead of on. Okay, then we'll say on line 5, we set up create a key on the current object. Create a key on the current object. Using the data key attribute. For this kind of attribute, everything after the data key part is the key name, and the value is the value of the key. And the value of the attribute is the value of the key. Okay. And then next, on line 6, we use a data w key text attribute. This we'll say like watch. This watch, or we'll say this attribute tells remake to watch a matching data key attribute and call the function this attribute tells remake to watch a matching data key attribute and call a function whenever that data key attributes value changes. Okay, and call a function whenever that data key attributes value changes. If the value of the data w key attribute, if the value of the is not a function, is not a function you defined, it will default to setting the it'll default to using it as an element property. It will default to using the value as the name of an element's property. Okay, on line 6, we use a data w key text attribute. This attribute tells remake to watch a matching data key attribute and call a, well, let's put an EG here. So we'll say EG data key text. Or we'll say IE, because that's more exact. So we'll say that is data O key text, and call a function whenever that data O key attribute's value changes. If the value of the data W key attribute is not a function that you defined, is not a function that you defined, it will default to using this value as the name of an element's property. Using this value as an element's property. So we can say, like, for example, inner HTML could be like value, could be like source. One more example could be like href. That's a good examples, I think. And here it's inner text. And we'll say on line 7, we set the initial, we set this element's inner text to the starting value of the to-do based on data saved to our backend. That is not necessary. We won't put that part. We'll just put, okay, on line 7, we set this element's text to the starting value of the to-do. Okay, so all of this combined, what does this do? So let's put like 1, 2, 3, what does this do? So we'll say, like, first of all, what does this code do? So first of all, by attaching by attaching data to the DOM in this way, we allow it to be serialized and saved, and easily saved. The structure, by attaching data to the DOM in this way, we allow it to be serialized and easily saved. Serialized into an object and saved. In this example, we save the entire page anytime data is changed. Okay. Data is changed using the inline edit area that's defined by the data editable with remove attribute. This allows a user to click on a to-do. Data is changed. Okay. A user can click on any to-do in order to edit it using the built-in inline edit component that's defined by the data editable with remove attribute. This inline edit component will also have a remove button that makes it easy to remove a to-do. Okay, when a user clicks the Save button inside an inline edit component, its data will be synced. What is that? Resident sleeper. I think that means you're bored, right? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm not being very engaging. Please tell me how to be more engaging. Um, let's do. I'll send this one more time. So this is a tutorial we're going to be doing very soon. If you fill this out, horse butt lever. I should definitely listen to you, right? No, I know. I understand. I'm being boring. Okay. So, um, I don't know. So the thing about this is that I'm preparing a bunch of documentation for a framework that I'm releasing soon, and so that's just like a lot of hard work. So I'm doing it on stream. I probably shouldn't be doing it on stream. I probably should be doing something more engaging, but this is what I'm the most interested in right now. Um, so I don't know if you have any questions about this framework. You can go to remakejs.com and then you can. I am creating a front end framework that makes it super easy to create web applications. So it allows you, the framework allows you to attach data to the DOM, and then like playing Arc. You want me to play a video game? So this is a coding stream. So I'm only going to be doing web development here. Um, so if you're interested in like asking questions about the framework I'm creating, yeah, sorry, it's only programming here. So yeah, if you're interested in gaming, you should definitely go to a different stream. But if you're interested in web development, you can keep following along and ask some questions about the framework I'm making. So its data will be synced back to the element that triggered the inline edit component. And any and all matching data W attributes you're, you're only, you're only 10. Are you serious? What are you interested in? Are you really only 10? Like, what's your favorite TV show? I'm I'm gonna heavily judge you by your favorite TV show. I feel like I could kind of figure out someone's age by their favorite TV show, but I'm actually not really up on the latest trends and stuff, so it's possible that's not true. But tell me your favorite TV show in order for me to judge you to see if you are actually only 10. I feel super bad now, actually, if you are actually 10 and I'm just judging you by your SpongeBob. Is that still on? I feel like that would make sense if it was 10 years ago. But I'm going to see, is SpongeBob still on? It's still on. It's going into the present. Okay. I believe you then. Yeah, it's still going. Okay, you're 10. I'll give you that. Um, what is so what do you like to do? What games do you like to play? What websites do you like to use? Since this is like a web development stream, I feel like I should like encourage you to get involved in like web development and programming. So, do you have any interest in like building websites or web apps? This framework that I'm building, I'm actually trying to make it simple enough for like anyone to use. And I've done I've done some like tutorials for people on game development at my local library, and I had like a few kids in there that were trying to learn how to program, and they did pretty well. They were like they really learned a lot from it. So I think I have some idea of how to make things easy, and so I'm trying to make this framework easy. Yeah, you don't know how to do it. So, I mean, that's fine. You're not going to know how to, do it early on, but do you have like do you have any interest in creating a web page? Um, Here, I'll add an option to our tutorial. So we're going to do a tutorial. I think I started around 2, so 3, 4. Yeah, so in about 20 minutes, I'm going to do a tutorial live on stream. Um, Build a simple website. So I'll put this option to like build a simple website up here. And if you want to vote in the chat, yeah, totally, that's good advice. Check out Free Code Camp if you want to learn how to code. But if you vote on this build a simple website, we'll totally make a simple website and like deploy it, and then you can like learn how to make a website if you want. Okay. So when a user clicks the Save button inside an inline edit component's data will be synced back to the element that triggered the inline edit component, and all matching data W key attributes will be triggered. This is too descriptive. This is like way too technical. Okay, by attaching data to the DOM in this way, we allow it to be serialized into an object and save. Yeah, so horse butt lever 10, just one thing you might want to know about if you want to create a website is, what is it called? Maybe if I just type in free website. Uh, oh, I remember what it's called. NeoCities. So if you go to neocities.com or .org, you can actually like create your own website. Um, and it's totally free. So you just like sign up for an account, and then you can go to like webs. How do you create a new one? Uh, I feel like it's pretty easy because this is like the whole point. Maybe you only get one. I think maybe you only get one. Um, Multiple site creation. Yeah, okay. So you only get one. Um, but so like this is an example website. I didn't really do anything with it, but if you want to like edit it, you just like go into the index HTML, and then this is like how you can change it. So like you can see like welcome to my NeoCities website is right here, and that's like the text that's displayed here. So if you want to say like, um, what's your name again? Horse butt lever. So we'll copy. Uh, so we'll say like horse butt lever 10's website. So you just put that right there, save it, and then boom, you've got your own website. And you can actually see this right now. Like if you go here, and then you'd be able to like share this with anyone. Um, and then you could do, I mean, you could like learn basic HTML by doing this. So you could like put like a button, and you could say like, click if you're awesome, and then you close the button using that, and then you click save, and then you refresh, and then you have a button here, and you can click it, and it won't do anything. But eventually you could learn how to make it do something. Um, well, let's make it do something. So we could say onClick equals, and we do like alert, and then it'll say like, yes, you are, exclamation point, save. We'll refresh this. So now we click this button and it says, yes, you are. So pretty simple to like create a functional website. And you could like design this yourself. You could add like your own theme to it or whatever. And then you'd have like a website and that you could share with family or friends. It's a pretty cool, it's a really, really cool little thing. And you could also go to this Learn tab, and it'll like show you like this HTML beginner tutorial, so you could like learn like how to do things, like add images or links or forms. And then you'd probably also want to know like JavaScript um, and CSS too. So that CSS would let you like style your page. So like if you wanted to add like a smaller heading, you could be like that, and then and then you'd get like your name would be smaller. But I'm actually going to change this because I don't want my website to say horse butt lover, because that's your name. Also, it's not super professional for me to do that. So I'll just say like my website. Um, but if you want that code, I'll copy this for you. Oops. So if you want your website, let's actually edit this so that it what's your name? Or I don't know. I shouldn't ask you what your name is. You're 10 years old. Like what's your preferred handle? Like your username? Because I could put that here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to documenting this. So, okay, by attaching data to the DOM, we allow it to be serialized into an object and saved. In this example, we save the entire page anytime data is changed. The user can click on any to-do in order to edit it. Edit it or remove it. When a user clicks the save button, oh, horse lover. Oh, that's actually super sad. Your sister put you as horse butt lover even though you love horses? Why would she do that? That's that's super sad. Um, okay, so if you go to neocities.org and you sign up and you create an account, and then you paste this code in there. So you paste this code in there. You'll have a website that looks like this. Horse Lover's website, and you have click if you're awesome. So there's that code, if you want it. I don't know means I don't know if I don't know that. Oh, no, I knew that. I'm not that old. um, yeah, I know that. So you said, how long have you been doing this stuff? I've been making websites since I was 21, probably, and I'm 33, so like 12 years. Um, okay, let's finish this documentation. If you guys want to vote in this questionnaire, I think Horse Lover, I don't think you voted yet, but if you want to vote, you can. Um, we've got the most votes for Flexbox CSS. We've got 1 vote for Remake. We've got 1 vote for SketchUp, and we've got 1 vote for Firebase. Okay, so if you guys want to continue voting, that would be great. I will share this again. This is the last. This is one of the last times I'm going to post it. This might be the last time that I post it. At 4. So we'll do a tutorial at 4 p.m. If you guys are curious about any of those technologies, please vote, and then we'll do the tutorial. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. Okay, so by attaching data to the DOM, we allow it to be serialized and saved. In this example, we save the entire page anytime the data changes. A user can click on any to-do in order to edit and remove it. When a user clicks the Save button, when a user saves their data, the to-dos text will be updated and saved to the backend, to the database. Okay, and then I think that's it. Oh yeah, when a user clicks the when a user adds a to-do, it will be appended to the end of the list. It'll be appended to, it'll be added after all the other to-dos. When a user adds a to-do, it'll be inserted. We'll say inserted after all the other to-dos, and the page will be saved. And then we'll say we have a, let's see how many lines of code this is. So we've got 8 here, and we've got 22, so 28 lines of code. So with just 28 lines of HTML, we have a fully functional web app. Awesome. Okay, so I don't know how though. You don't know how to vote? So you click on the link, click on the forms.gle link, and then it'll pop this up like this. So it'll pop this up, and you just click on one of these. Click on any one of these. Oh shoot, I didn't save the, option 13. So you figured it out? So yeah, you just click on any one of these. And I'm thinking you probably want to learn how to build a simple website, so you probably want to click on this one. And then click submit, and then that's it. And then you're done. Okay, so did you know, Horse Lover, that you can change your username? I think. So if you go to twitch.tv and you go to settings and you go to username, you can go to edit right here. Click edit, and then you can put in your new username. You could also, was it on computer? I don't know what that means. You can also change your display name right here, and then you just save it here, and that'll change what everyone sees. But you can change either one. I think you need to change this one too after you change the username though. What, is it on computer? Are you not on a computer? What are you on? How are you chatting with me if you're not on a computer? Are you on like a iPad or a phone or something? Um, okay. Um, yeah, but it should still work on a phone. I mean, so, I mean, this is what it's going to look like on a phone. Let me show you. So if you go, I actually forgot how to do this. How do I emulate? Oh, there it is. Oops. Oh. Wait, is that really how it looks on a phone? Is this how it looks on a phone? Um, the screen icons top left. So, I mean, if this is how it looks on a phone, then you just, I mean, it's the same thing. You just can scroll around and then click on one and then click submit. Yeah, I think it should work. Okay, so for the tutorial, we're doing the tutorial in 5 minutes. If anyone has a vote, now is the time to get it in. Now is the time to fill out the form if you want a vote in what the tutorial is going to be about. We're doing a tutorial on a web development topic in 6 minutes. So vote here. The screen icons on top left. I don't know what I'm very tired dude is saying. I think if you click on the link that I posted, it'll take you to a website using your phone's browser, and then you can vote, and then you can come back to Twitch. If you want. You don't have to vote. I mean, your option, no offense, but your option of build a simple website is probably not going to work because people have already voted on Flexbox. So unless someone else votes for that too, that's probably not going to win, unfortunately. But you never know. Maybe someone else will vote for it too. Okay. So I want to copy this code into, well, let's add like a little emoji here first. Or we could add this like excited guy. I don't know. This isn't like super excited. Maybe he needs 2 arms. There, that's better. Okay. Oops. I got rid of him almost. Okay, good. So let's put him there. That's nice. Oh no. That's silly. Okay, so let's change this view to source code mode, and I'm going to select all this, and I'm going to paste it into a gist. You voted! Awesome. Good job. Let's see. Build a simple website. Awesome. Great job, Horse Lover. So if anyone else wants to vote for build a simple website so that this 10-year-old kid can learn how to build a simple website, I'm sure he would appreciate it. So if you guys want to vote, that would probably be nice for this guy. Or girl. I actually don't know if you're a guy or a girl. Okay, so let's put in simple remake app example. Okay, and we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna say simple remake JS app, and we'll do create public gist. Okay, so now we've got this basic tutorial for creating a remake JS app. Okay, so let's edit it and just have the heading match the... Is basic or simple a better word? Simple. I'll say basic. A basic remake JS app. Update. Let's see. Okay, cool. Oh, this is not rendering correctly. So let's go to the bottom. Maybe if I just put those stars next to the text, it's going to render. Nice. Okay, so a basic remake JS app with annotated source code. This, you have to go. You just voted. I thought we were going to make a simple website. Okay, that's fine. Have a good time, horse lover. I hope you have a good day. See you later. Okay, so a basic remake JS app with annotated source code. This is an example of how simple it is to build a web app with remake JS using only HTML data attributes. Parent template, item template. What does this code do? Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with this. So let's put this into our README. So we'll say, we'll put it at the top. Okay, and we're gonna put, oh, it's time for our tutorial. So just 1 second and then we'll get started on the tutorial. Okay, so example app, and then we'll say like with annotated source code. Okay, so place that in there and we'll save this, commit changes, and then let's go to remake JS. Is it website? Remake JS, it's this one. Okay, so we'll pull that. And so we have the latest. Okay, JS.test. I think we added some to-dos. We'll just say cleanup. Okay, so it's time for the tutorial. I don't know who's with me, but we're gonna do a little tutorial on the topic that chat chose. So I'm gonna close all the other code that I have. I'm actually going to pin this because I have to do something with it later. And I'll do the same thing with that. Okay. So we're going to close that. We're going to close our remake.js project. We're going to open up a new file. We're going to go into a new browser, and let's look at how our responses turned out. So we've got Flexbox CSS with the top votes of 2. And then we've got Build a Simple Website with 1, Remake.js with 1, SketchApp with 1, and Firebase with 1. So it looks like we're learning about Flexbox CSS today. So the first thing I'm going to do, just so maybe a few more people might know about this, we're going to go into the channel and change this topic. So Flexbox tutorial for 40 minutes. So we'll do that. Okay, let's learn about Flexbox. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is maybe go back into the code that we used for this before, and we can just review it really quick. So let's go in here and open up this file. Not sure why this is not loading the CSS. Unless oh, I know what it. So we started off with this, and then we went into CodePen because people wanted to be able to play around with the code themselves. So we ended up creating most of it in CodePen. So let's go to the dashboard. We'll go into this one. And let's learn some more about Flexbox. So this is what we created so far. We created a layout that has a left sidebar, a main area, and then a right sidebar. And at the bottom of the left sidebar, we have this button. And we did this all with Flexbox. And let's look up the template we have for this. So we did a grid tutorial, but after that we did a Flexbox tutorial. And we were trying to like create all of these items using Flexbox. So we took this like basic layout that we have here, and we tried to recreate it. So we outlined like all of the items that we wanted to create. So this is like the outline of all the items. And then we started with the left side, or we started with the main layout. So just trying to get like these 3 columns looking okay. And then we started with the left-hand side. And then we were going to do the middle, and then we were going to do the right. So the main layout, let's just like quickly review how we did the main layout. So let's go into CodePen. We created this container. So we have container, and then we have sidebar, sidebar left. Hey Victor Barbosa, hey Most Fidel, we're learning about Flexbox right now. Let us know if you have any questions. So we're talking about how we created this basic layout right here. So we have this container element, and then we have sidebar, and then we have this sidebar left class on it. And then we have this main area, and then we have another sidebar area with sidebar right on it. So the basic way that this is going to work is that we put display flex on the overall container, and that makes it so that each item is going to be next to each other instead of stacked vertically. It's going to be horizontal, because that's what display flex does. And then on main, we have this flex grow attribute, and flex grow creates a ratio between it and the other items that are next to it that are also inside of the flexbox. And setting it to 3 means that it should be 3 times the size of the other items. So these sidebar items are set to flex grow 1, and so they're going to be in a ratio to the middle item of 1 to 3. Now, for some reason, this doesn't look right to me, because this main area is definitely not 3 times the size of these other areas. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to just play around with this real quick. Let's check to see what if we put flex grow 0 on the sidebar and then save. Okay, now this looks a little bit better to me. So I think what that does is flex grow, setting flex grow to anything means that it has the ability to expand. Whereas having flex grow equal to 0 means that it's able to just take up the width of the content that it has, and it's not going to try to take up any additional space. It can't expand beyond what it needs. So if there's a min width, it'll expand to that min width. If there's some content in it, it'll expand to that content. So let's test this out. So let's delete the text from the right sidebar. And if we delete that and we go back and we refresh this page, I'm imagining that this right sidebar is going to almost completely disappear. It does have some padding on it, so I believe that will make it so that it has some, it'll still have some width in there, but it's not going to have as much as it has now. So we'll refresh. There it is. So now it's tiny compared to where it was before. So that's a problem because we don't really want, we want it to be like a certain width no matter what content it has in it, but we want it to be in ratio to the main area. So ideally what I want is the sidebar, each sidebar to have like an area of like 1 compared to the main, which should have a width of like 3. So like the sidebar should be able to be repeated like 3 times inside the main area. So I thought by doing flex grow 1 it would work, but I'm not sure. I guess that's not going to work because if we do that, now this is going to expand, this is going to expand, and this is going to expand. Now this is interesting here because even though this has flex grow 1 on it and this has flex grow 1 on it, right? Both sidebars on either side have flex grow 1 on them. This one's much bigger, and then this one's much smaller. And so it's important to mention that flex grow is not about creating like an exact ratio. It's just telling it kind of the relative importance of its ability to grow. So this left sidebar is going to start out with like a minimum width. So let's use a ruler here. So it's going to start out with like this width right here, right? Because this is the width that the content itself requires. And then it's going to grow this much because it has flex grow 1. And then this purple area, we saw it started with a width of about here, and then it grew this much. So you can see that the amount that each of these sidebars grow is pretty much equal, right? This area that this grew by is pretty much equal to this area that this grew by. And I think that's what the flex grow 1 is saying, is that if there's extra space, then these are both going to expand. Yeah, I did. It was spooky, right? I turned on my stream on Tuesday for a couple seconds. I was like in the dark. I was home alone. I was just testing out the stream. I just got a Ethernet cable, so I was testing that out to see if it could cut down on the stream issues that people were having before. Okay, so flex grow is going to give us the ability to expand into the rest of this area, and and the ratio at which it expands is equal to the number that flex row was set at. And then this one too. Did you say anything? I think I turned on chat, but I didn't see you say anything. That's cool though that you noticed. I was hoping no one would notice. I was like, can I set myself to invisible and no one will notice? But it didn't work. Um, that's cool though. Thanks for stopping by. Um, oh, that's funny. Sorry about that. Okay, um, but we want these to be in ratio. So we're gonna search for like flexbox column ratio. Um, okay, so I think we want to use something like flex basis. Yeah, so you can tell that like Flexbox is kind of a complicated technology because they have this article that's just called controlling ratios of flex items along the main axis. That's all, right? That's all this article's about, and look at how long this is. This is like a super long article. They have to explain like 4 concepts to you just to get like you to understand the basics. But I think um, you almost finished learning state and the React docs. That's awesome. State is like super fundamental. And the React docs are so good, aren't they? I feel like React did such a good job with those. So easy to learn. Okay, so I think flex basis is what we want. So the flex basis property specifies the initial size of the flex items before any space distribution happens. The initial value of this property is auto. If flex basis is set to auto, then to work out the initial size of the item, the browser first checks if the main size of the item has an absolute size set. This would be the case if you had given the item a width of 200 pixels. In that case, 200 pixels would be the flex basis. If your item is instead auto size, then auto resolves to the size of its content. So that's the important thing. So you could set like some min content, or you could just, it would just depend on how much content it has in it. So I think we want to manually set the flex basis if we want the ratio to work. So let's do flex basis. And what can we set flex basis to? Let's look up our cheat sheet for Flexbox, a complete guide to Flexbox, which is amazing. And let's look up flex basis. I've set to 0. I wonder if we can just set it to like 1 for like a ratio or something. Yeah, I think we can. Maybe. Yeah, I love the React docs. They're so good. So let's try just setting it to 1. And then we'll set this to 1 too. And now let's refresh our Flexbox area. It didn't work how we expected it to. Let's try setting it to, to 1 pixel. Because it has flex grow on it anyway, so it should grow the rest. Awesome. I think we got it to work. So let's check the width of these now. So the left sidebar has a width of, I wish I could just tell the total width. Oh, here it is. So 259, and then the right sidebar has a width of the noob life, you're blocking it. Okay, so 259. So 259 and 259. So that's awesome. So now we size them correctly. So the noob life says, after 20 minutes of reading and doing stuff, I get bored and lose interest, unfortunately. What can I do to overcome that? So, so you know how when you're playing a game, so the noob life, you know how when you're playing a game, like a video game, and you get instant feedback, you know, like you're clicking on a space on the page, and it's telling you whether you got an extra point, it's telling you whether you died or whether you survived. You're getting like the instant gratification of the feedback of whether you did well or not. Like if you're playing Tetris, you're getting like points every time you get a piece in the right place. So that's what your brain wants. It wants to be doing something where uh, you're getting some kind of feedback that's saying, yes, you're on the right path, you're doing something good. So when you're programming or when you're learning anything really, your brain's not getting that immediate feedback. You're, like say you're studying for a history exam, you just have to like read a book, usually a boring book, for like 4 hours straight in order to study. And it's not super rewarding. So there's a couple things you can do to get around that. Um, so uh, One, which is a strategy that I've used a lot, is just to save everything for the last moment, and then panic, and just use that panicked energy to study or learn. So you could do that, but it doesn't really work that well with like programming, or like learning something for your own benefit, for like a site you're trying to create. So there's a couple things you can do with that. Um, Something that a lot of like very talented, very like well-rounded people do is they keep in mind the ultimate goal of what they're shooting for. So if you're shooting for a job that makes $100,000, um, keep that in mind in the back of your mind, and just every once in a while remind yourself that you're shooting for this job where you get to make $100,000 a year. Um, if that's if that's your goal and it looks like it's very far off, so it looks like it's going to happen in like 3 to 5 years, again, your brain's going to not be tricked by that for very long, because it's going to be like, I want something now that's telling me I'm doing something good right now. So with programming, that can be kind of easy because you can immediately see the results of what you're doing. So the idea is to put something onto the screen and see it working as quickly as you can. And so what you do for that is, if you're learning a new technology, you load up that technology, you create a local project with it, and you make a lot of mistakes. And the point of doing the mistakes is that you're not trying to do the mistakes, obviously, you just want it to work. But by just pushing ahead and trying to get something up there, even if it looks terrible, even if it's broken, at least it's something, and it's something to work off of. So like your brain is going to say, this is boring if it's not seeing a result, over and over again after a long time. But if you're working with React and your goal is to get 3 items displaying on a page, and that's your goal, try to get, anything showing up on the page. And then if you get anything showing up on the page, you can slowly work towards getting 3 items showing up on the page. And then from there, set a new goal of saying, okay, now I want these items to look like this. I want them to look pretty. And then start off with something that looks really really ugly, and just add a little thing here, a little thing there to make it look a little bit better. And once your brain gets into that habit, that little cycle of doing something and then seeing something change, you're going to be much more likely to like pursue it in the long run. However, that will not be enough, because at least for me, it's not enough, because there's something about doing something for yourself, or just doing something for the page to update, but there's something else entirely for doing something that is for a community, or for other people, or for a friend, where you can get feedback on it. So I would strongly recommend joining some kind of community, or even just like telling your friend what you're working on and showing them updates, because getting just like having other people see it and appreciate it is very important. So I wouldn't like show it to a friend that isn't that interested in programming or website development, but try to join a group, even just a Reddit group, and say, hey, I've been learning React for 5 days now. Here's what I built. And especially this is good in like Slack groups, or Telegram groups, or Discord groups, where it's like a more chat-like interface, and you can show people something and they can say, hey, that's cool, but what if you added this? Or they can say like, hey, that's a lot of progress. And so if you're getting that type of social feedback, then that can really feed into your process, and it can feel more sustainable. If you can't do any of those, another thing I'd strongly recommend is taking frequent breaks. So your brain loves to have breaks. It loves to have time when you don't have to do anything. So you can tell your brain, you can talk to yourself, and you can say, "Hey, I'm going to work really hard for the next hour, but then I'm going to give you a half an hour, brain, a half an hour where you do whatever you want. If you want to play a video game, you can do that. If you want to go for a nice walk and just have no expectations, you can do that. If you want to be totally lazy and just lay down for an hour or a half an hour, that's fine too. But I'm going to work really hard for an hour, and then I'm going to give you this huge reward of whatever you want for a half an hour or whatever." And that can be a huge motivating factor, especially because there's a time limit and your brain understands that even though this is really boring and really hard, it only has to do it for an hour. And that can make a huge difference. There's some people out there who work on projects that take 10 years, and they have to keep telling their brain over and over again, just wait 9 more years and then we're done, right? And that they're able to do that because they have a lot of other things that are playing into what they're doing. If they're trying to like solve a huge problem, there's a lot of social things that are helping support their efforts. But taking frequent breaks in between can really help with that too, because then you're not just defined by your project and how you're doing on that project. You can also just kind of enjoy life and let go. So I would the like one of the top things you can do is think about something that you feel guilty about doing, because it's like a guilty pleasure. It's something that you enjoy so much that that you're like afraid of being like addicted to it because it's so good. If it's like it's gaming for me, I just love gaming. It could be reading, it could be watching movies, it could even be like going for a run for some people. But tell your brain, I'm going to do that incredibly enjoyable thing as soon as I finish an hour of work. And then your brain will be like, okay, it's only an hour, I can do this. And then also, you get this incredible reward after that hour. And then just use that again and again. And eventually, you should be able to build up a habit where uh, you're able to like kind of work with your brain a little bit better. But yeah, that's pretty much all the advice I have. Um, I think the other thing is that um, the other thing I would mention real quick is that it should be fun. So if you really want like very strong motivation for what you're doing, have the actual thing you're working on be fun. So if it's boring, you're probably starting too far ahead than where you should be. So like for example, if you're learning React, but you don't know JavaScript and HTML that well, you might want to just play around with JavaScript and HTML and getting something displaying on the page. And that could be more fun because you don't have to learn like 6 different concepts just to get one thing to change. So I would say there's this, I don't know if you're still listening, but there's this thing called the flow state, and this guy called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, this guy talks about it a lot. And if you go to this article, uh, they have this. Um, so you said you're still here. That's awesome. So I'm glad I'm not talking to no one. But so this chart is amazing. Um, so you should look at this chart. This is like something that really makes a lot of sense once you think about it. So there's the skill level down here. So this is the graph of the skill level, and then this is the challenge level of whatever you're working on. Okay, so so the ideal is to be like right here in this yellow area up here, like around here is pretty good too, like where you feel like you have control or you feel like arousal, like excitement, like that's what this means. It's just like excitement by it. But if you're like right here, that's perfect. And so you want the skill level of what you're doing to be relatively high, and you want the challenge level to be relatively high. And so this isn't actually the perfect graph. It's more like, you can look at that graph too. That's a pretty good graph. But But let me just show you this other example. This is much simpler. So uh, you have like the skill level, and then you have like the challenge that's presented. So this is like just a very simple kind of like graph. But the idea is that if your skill is like pretty low, and the challenge of what you're working on is pretty low, you're gonna feel okay about what you're doing, right? Because you're gonna, um, it's like you're just learning how to, do somersaults or something, or like flips, right? You're just learning how to do flips, and you start out with a somersault, right? So the challenge is pretty low, and your skill is pretty low. So you feel pretty good. You can feel pretty concentrated, like you're doing something that's interesting that you can make progress on, right? You can measure. You can say, oh, that somersault felt better than the last somersault, and then as you get better, as your skill increases, then you increase the challenge. So you start to, maybe do a somersault off of, a bench or something, or off of like a higher object. So it can feel more like a flip, right? So then the challenge goes up, and then your skill is going up at the same time. Now the problem with this is a lot of people, what they do is they take on a huge challenge, right? So the challenge is like, this is how you know you're in trouble. Is like the challenge is like way high. It's like way up here. But their skill is like still way down here. So your skill isn't exactly where it needs to be in order to take on a challenge like this and feel competent, right? So the challenge is way high. So where you're going to get with that is you're going to get, if you look back at this graph, you're going to get very anxious. You're going to either get, apathetic, you're going to get worried, or you're going to get very anxious, because there's just too many steps between you and your goal. And when there's so many steps, your brain just wants to give up. It's like if I set the goal of starting like a spaceship company and going to Mars, like I have like a few $1,000s in the bank. There's no way I'm going to start a spaceship company and end up in Mars within the next 2 years, right? That's like a super long-term goal. So setting my sights on that goal is going to cause me a lot of anxiety because my skill level or my ability to achieve that goal is very low, whereas the challenge level is very high. But if I set my sights on something closer to home, where I was like, I'm going to start a company so that I can make money, so that I can more easily achieve my bigger goals, then I can start very slow. I can be like, okay, I need to build up an audience. Okay, I need to, talk with more people. Okay, I need to, start making money. The skill level can be relatively low relative to the challenge level, right? And then um, I can get out of that into something that's going to feel more challenging. So the goal is to find something um, that matches your skill level, so you feel like you can make quick progress and get quick feedback from your environment or from other people that says you're doing well, that says you're developing. And then as you get that feedback, you're going to grow much faster. You're going to accelerate. But if you start out with a huge goal and you don't really know how to make progress, and you're not getting that constant feedback of you're making progress, then it's going to be much harder to continue. Um, and a great example of this, I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but I've thought about this a lot. So a great example of this is, uh, what's his name? Some guy who writes for the New Yorker, and he wrote the tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell. So Malcolm Gladwell uh, wrote this article on hockey, and I would recommend. Oh, and that's on the NHL, I guess, actually. Uh, Maybe. No, I think it was on hockey originally. So if you look up this article, uh, oh, this is it. the physical genius. So this article is really, really good if you're curious about like what's going to keep you motivated. It's all about how, or it's part of what it mentions is that hockey players are mostly born at a certain time of year. I think it's like November, December, January. Like if you look at like the top hockey players in the world, you can kind of like pick out their months and be like, this person was born in November, that person was born in December, that person was born in January, and like they're all born around the same year. And then there's like some outliers who are born in like June or July. And the reason is that the deadline for signing up for hockey club or like hockey training when you're young is close to like January and February. So the cutoff age is around that. So like, so you're more likely to be older when you join the hockey league when you're like a young kid. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense why you would get this positive reinforcement if you were older when you joined. It's like if you joined kindergarten when you're older than all the other kids, you would just be smarter, you would be more able. Your teachers would say, hey, you're really smart. Hey, that's cool, you knew the answer. Wow, you're like so good at reading. And so what happens is this self-reinforcement cycle of you're older, you're one of the older, bigger kids when you first started playing hockey, just because you just happened to be born close to the sign up time of year. So you're, I don't know, 10 years old when everyone else is 9 years old. And so you're bigger, you're stronger, you're getting more positive reinforcement from your coaches, and then your coaches are, year after year, right? Because if you get tons of positive reinforcement in the first year, you're going to think you're really great. You're going to think you're like the best hockey player that ever existed, right? If you're like 10 and you're like bigger than all the other kids to start out with, and your coach is like, wow, you're so great, you're so strong, you're so great, then the next year you're going to think you're just as good, you're going to practice more, and then the next year, et cetera, right? So you're going to be one of the biggest, strongest kids who's getting the most positive social reinforcement. And then that ends up translating into eventually you become a hockey pro just because your birthday happened to be around the time when the final cutoff for the signups for the hockey league was. So you ended up being one of the strongest kids, and so you got most of the best positive feedback when you first started out. So that's what that article's about, and so I would recommend checking that out. And the reason I mention that is just because if you realize that that's kind of what's happening in a lot of situations, if you can put yourself purposely into those situations where you're getting positive reinforcement from the people around you, and people are able to see your progress, and you're getting positive signals from the people around you, um, you're going to be much more likely to succeed and to build upon your skills. Uh, uh, yeah, simply because it's a cycle. It's a cycle. It builds upon itself. It's like compound interest. You know. So I hope that helped. That was a bit of a tangent. I'm sorry for anyone who wasn't that interested in that. But I'm very passionate about that idea because I always struggled as a kid to stay focused, and I always wanted to know, like, what's kind of the secret to staying focused and staying motivated on something. So those are my 2 cents. Um, so the video on flow, yeah. So it's this guy. Yeah, so that's the guy who talks about it a lot. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I don't know how to pronounce it. I actually looked it up once. It's like not that hard to pronounce, but it's a really long name. Okay, so let's go back here, and we're gonna say sidebar. So I guess we can set the flex basis to like, I don't know, something more reasonable, like 200 pixels. Um, and then I don't know. Maybe 100 pixels is better. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now they seem like roughly in the shape that we want them to be. And now we have this sidebar left and sidebar right. Now let's expand our sidebar left. And we've got these media objects here. So let's take out one of these media objects and just put it into our text editor. And we'll set the syntax to HTML. Okay, so this is an example of like something that's going to appear a lot in this design. So if we look at this sketch file, we can see that like a lot of these items have this like one thing on the left and then like this bigger area on the right that has one or more items. And then you can see like here, we have the same kind of thing where we have like with this one, we have this small little image or you know, icon, and then we have this text description on the right or something. And then we don't really have a lot of more examples of that here, but we do down here. So down here, these are like comments, and we have this like little profile photo, and then we have a bunch of stuff on the right, and then same thing for these. So in order to deal with all of those, we created this media object CSS class. And inside of the media object, we have a left area, and then we have a right area. And so the left area, let's see what we set that to. So we have media object, and then left, we set a width of 100. And then for the right, we just set a margin left. So we set an exact width on the left, which I guess is okay, because that's not like a bad width even if we're on mobile. So let's just leave that width for now. And then we also have this like small variant of the media object. So if we add this additional class with media object dash dash small, then we'll get this alternate style where the media object left container has a width of 80 pixels. And that lets us create these smaller items like this. Okay, so let's create the rest of this sidebar, of this original sidebar. So we have, let's see, 6 items. So let's create, let's just copy and paste these items until we have 6. Not that it's that important, but it's good to just be complete, I guess. So now we've got 6 items, and we're going to name them after this. So we'll just say like dashboard, projects, calendar, conversations, tasks, and settings. So we have dashboard, projects, calendar, and then 3 more calendars. So we'll just replace these with conversations, tasks, and settings. So now we've pretty much recreated this sidebar along with the bottom button. And just so you know how we did the bottom button, on the button we just say margin top auto, and if you're inside of a flexbox, that just means like use up all of the space above me. And that works because in our sidebar we say flex direction column. So that changes the orientation of this flexbox to be vertical. So that means that like instead of it being horizontal, you know how a flexbox normally is, right? If we look at like all of these flexbox examples, these are all meant for horizontal layout. The flex direction column means that the layout is going to be vertical instead, but it's still going to use the same underlying flexbox layout rules. So it's basically if we like, as if we like flip the monitor, you know, sideways, you know, that's pretty much what's happening here. It's just changing the axis to be vertical. And so then we can create this button down here that is all the way at the bottom by just saying margin top auto. So margin top auto, whenever you set a margin side to auto and you're inside of Flexbox, it's just going to fill up all the space that is in the direction of where you pointed the auto. So in this case, top. So margin top, auto is going to fill up all this space, and then we've got it at the bottom. So let's make the height of this a little bit less. So let's just say like 2400 instead, just so we don't have to scroll quite so far down. For some reason we're getting a bunch of, okay, here we go. So we want 24 for this and 24 for that too. Okay, so now we've got that. Now for the main area, this is where it gets a little bit difficult. So we're going to have this media object looking thing as the first item right here. So let's just use our media object style again. And since we specified a hard width for the left area, it should just kind of work. So inside of main, we'll put the h2 first, and then we'll put the media object. And then to the right, I believe this says, this is like a search bar. So we'll just put search here inside of the right container. And this isn't going to work because we haven't set the main area to be flex direction vertical. And we'll go into that in 1 second, but let's just see how this looks. Oh, wait, maybe we did. Did we set it flex direction vertical? I don't think so. Oh, okay, but we don't even have a flexbox set on the main area. So let's decide if we want a flexbox on this main area. By the way, guys, I'm going to go until 5 p.m. And then I'm going to stop the stream. I'm feeling a little bit run down talking so much. But I'm going to try to finish as much of this as I can. Okay, so the question is, do we want to make this area right here? Do we want to make that into a flexbox? And we don't have to make it all into a flexbox, even though we're building this layout with a flexbox, because we could just make like each of these like areas, these individual areas, into flexboxes inside of the overall container. So like this could be flexbox, and then like this could be flexbox here, right? But we don't have to make the overall container into a flexbox if it doesn't make sense. So let's try to think through it. So I think this, for the sidebar, it kind of made sense to just have it all one area, because these items are all kind of similar, and they're laid out in one kind of layout, right? We just have these vertically stacked things, and then at the bottom, we just have one item that's vertically stacked and just pushed all the way to the bottom. But for this area here, we have a bunch of different types of layouts. So we have this one, this area here, which is like a vertical stack. And then we have this area or this entire area, right? Which is kind of a horizontal, right? So we have like this, and then we have this over here. So that's kind of a horizontal layout, but then over in here, we have this like vertical thing going on. And then in here, it's vertical too, but then if we go down into here, we get horizontal again, right? So if we created a overall flexbox layout, I think that would be fine. We would just have to split the page into these like vertical areas. So it would be like this, stacked on top of this, stacked on top of this, stacked on top of like this entire area down here. Which would be fine, but it doesn't really make sense why we would need Flexbox for that, because Flexbox would be really good for like pushing something further down, like all the way to the bottom. You know, like if we had like an item at like a footer area, then we could use Flexbox to like create this empty space here automatically. But as it is, we're just kind of vertically stacking things, and the regular kind of HTML layout is going to work for this, right? We can just, like, things are just naturally stacked on top of each other in HTML if we just, you know, create a div, and then another div, and then another div, and then another div. Those are just going to automatically be stacked. So let's just use divs for that, okay? And then we'll put the search area inside of a div. So until we need styles on this div, I'm just going to have it be without a class. Although it might be nice to put a class on it just to be able to tell like what it's supposed to be so that we can refer to it later. So yeah, I actually am going to add a class to it. So we'll say class, and then we'll say like search for this first div. And then down here, we're going to say class, and this is kind of like a header area. I hesitate to call it header, like just header, because there's so many different header areas inside of an app. You know, you end up having like a header area for the sidebar, you end up having a header area for, you know, like a video or like a media object. So instead I'm going to call this, I'm going to namespace this with main. So you can see we have this main class up here, and this item's inside of it. So using the like block element modifier syntax, which is just a way of writing CSS, it's just like kind of a convention. We're going to say main underscore underscore, and then we're going to call this like header. And then we've got this this thing in here. We'll deal with this later. For now, we'll just put app concept in here, just so we know what's supposed to be in here eventually. Then we're going to create another div, and we'll say class equals, and this is the navigation. Now again, you're going to have navigation all over the app. You're probably going to have the app navigation. You're going to have navigation between different files or something. But since this is in the main area and we've already namespaced it with main, I'm going to just put main nav. Now I might regret this later because there might be another nav area inside this same container. So we might end up renaming this later. But for right now, we're just going to call it main nav. And we can even give it a custom, what do you call it, HTML5 attribute, or sorry, not attribute. I forget what that's called. Like element type, I guess. And we'll just put nav as the inner text for that. Okay, so we've got nav there, and then we have this kind of like media area. Hey clickies, how's it going? I don't know if you just joined or you've been here for a while, but welcome to the stream. We're building this layout in Flexbox and just kind of figuring out how Flexbox works in general. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so this area has multiple different sizes of objects, and they should kind of fit neatly into each other. But I think they need to be exact sizes, because like, I mean, we could make them responsive, but I think like this image isn't going to look, I don't know, it could probably be a little responsive, right? So this is like actually the perfect opportunity to use grid layout. Like we learned a couple live streams ago when we did the grid layout, which was really exciting because I learned about grid template areas, and this is actually like a perfect opportunity to use that. But since we're learning about Flexbox right now, we'll do this with Flexbox for now. So for the last area, we're going to say, we could say like media. This does just kind of look like a media space. I mean, there's there's literally an image, a sound, and a video. So I don't know what else to call this. We could call it media area, I guess. Okay, so we'll close that div there. And we're just going to put media for the inner text for this right now. And we're just going to make sure that this is all displaying how we envision it, which is vertically. So let's see. So we've got the search, and then we've got the app concept, then we've got the nav, and then we've got the media. And this is all vertical because that's just how divs naturally interact. They're all block level elements, so they're just going to stack on top of each other. Okay, so now let's make this work with Flexbox. Okay, so this first area isn't that interesting. We're just going to have project's name and then app concept. So let's quickly create that. I keep thinking that I'm editing this in Sublime, but I'm editing in a CodePen. Okay, so we have this main header area, and we're going to have two boxes inside of this. We're going to have this kind of like project info box. So let's just call that main. So we're going to namespace it using the same main attribute. And we're going to say project info. And again, we don't really have to use Flexbox here. There's nothing special going on. So we're just going to stack these divs right on top of each other. So we're going to say main project name, and then we'll just say project's name. And then we'll have div class, and again, namespace it. And then we'll have, oh, I guess this is the label, project's name. So let's actually just say like project name, because I think that's a better that's a better label. And then we'll just say like project. So we'll say project name label here, and then we'll just put like the regular project name here, and then we're going to call it app concept. Now, if we save that, what we're expecting is that these are just going to be on top of each other. Project name, app concept. That's perfect. We can change this to like a heading. So let's just make this like an H3 so that it's a little bit bigger. And now let's create the exciting part. So this is probably the last thing I'm going to work on today, but we're going to just learn how to do this area, this kind of area here, using Flexbox. So first we'll do div class equals main, and we'll say members, because this is kind of the members area. Although sometimes I like having the list of members surrounded with members, and then have like the overall container like called a container, because I like saving this for like the inner container that's going to wrap right around the members. Because see, we have this label here, so we want that to be separate from it. So we'll wrap that in like some kind of heading. It could be like an H5 or something like that. And we'll just say members, and then H5, and then we have the actual members avatars in here. And the nice thing about namespacing it like this is that since we have main members, we can just singularize that and then have a member for each one of those. So now we have the three members, and let's just make these images actually. And we'll delete that and have that auto close. Okay, so we need a source on these, and I guess we'll just use the place kitten again. I think I found a better image placeholder service the other day that we use in another project, but for now this is fine. Okay, so we've got three members, And then we could reuse the same class for this plus 12. But I like my classes to kind of mean the things they are. So let's actually not do that. We're going to make this a button and then put the plus 12 in there. Because I'm imagining that if you click this plus 12, it's going to show you some kind of overlay or expand the members so that you can see the other ones here, or at least, you know, show a tooltip of the members' names. So I'll make that a button, and we're going to give this a class of main, and then members more button. And then for the last thing, we're going to make another button, because I imagine when you click this, it's going to add a new member. And then we're going to do class main member add button. We'll say members, just to keep it consistent. And then we'll do a plus in there, and then close that button. Okay, so now if we refresh this, now everything's all over the place. So we have project name with the actual project name up above the members area. They're not next to each other. And then this kind of overflows here. And we want this all to be right next to each other. So we learned how to make things all next to each other using Flexbox before. So let's just do that again. So we have this main header area. So let's use this main namespace that we have up here, and using Sass, if we just do the ampersand, it's going to use the parent selector in place of the ampersand here. And this is just a nice way of organizing your Sass code. It's not necessary for writing things in this style. You could just write this entire class if you wanted, right? Just like that. But we'll use the ampersand for now. And then this, we just want to say this is display flex. And what that's going to do is it's going to make this project info box, this project info element, and then this members container horizontally displayed right next to each other. So let's see what that looks like. It's probably not going to look amazing, but it looks a little bit more like our layout than the last version did. Ooh, jeez. Streaming is hard. Okay, so the problem that we're running into here is that we want this members area to take up roughly half of the page, or roughly half of its container, and then we want the other half to go to the app concept. And in fact, in this design, the project name is even taking up more than half. So we already kind of learned how to do that with Flex Basis. I'm not quite certain if that's the way to do it, but for now we're just going to assume that it is. So in order to do that, let's we'll grab this project info and we'll refer to that like that, and then we're going to do the members container. And we're going to set the flex basis of both of these to something like pretty small, so that ideally they're both going to get equal width in this area. So that didn't work, and I think it's because I didn't set a flex grow on them. So basically what just happened is that this area over here with the project name has a flex basis of 100 pixels, which is basically telling it should try to fit inside of 100 pixels. And since its flex grow property by default is set to 0, so if we look down here, if we look at the flex property, I can say that it says the default is 0, 1, auto for this property. And so that means that it's going to say it's going to be flex grow is equal to 0, flex shrink is equal to 1, and flex basis is equal to auto. So by overriding the flex basis, we're saying, okay, no longer rely on your content for your flex basis. Use this exact measurement instead. And also, you can't expand because we're not giving you any flex grow. So you literally can't break out of the flex basis. You have to obey that. You have to shrink to that amount. So I bet if we look at the other element too, that's going to have a width of 100 pixels too. So if we look at the members container and we look at the computed and we look at the width, that's weird. So it has 200 pixels. So it's smaller than it should be, right? It's not like expanding to the full width, but that's because it doesn't have flex grow. But it's weird to me that project info is 112 pixels, even though we gave it a flex basis of 100 pixels. I guess maybe it can't help it because that's the minimum size that its content can fit in. So I guess when it comes down to it, Flexbox kind of says, well, if you just literally can't fit the content in there, then expand the box to at least be the width of the content. Okay, so let's add our flex grow properties to this. And I think the way we're going to do it from now on is just use the flex shorthand. So we're going to say flex grow is 1, flex shrink is 1, that's fine too because we want it to be responsive, and then flex basis is 100 px. I wish I could set this to something else that was just like a number or like a relative value, but for now I don't really know how to do that, so we're just going to use an exact value of 100 pixels. And then we'll do the same thing with the members container. So now these should both expand. Great, so now they both take up about half of the width of this main area. Now the next thing we want to do is get these member profile photos to be displaying right next to each other. So in order to do that, let's modify this members container to also be display flex. And so this is the really nice thing about Flexbox as well as Grid, is you can have display grid elements inside of other display grid elements, and you can also have display flex inside of other display flex elements. So let's do that. Okay, now we're back to this horrible situation where I think it doesn't know what to do. So what we told it to do is put these on one horizontal line, but when it does that, these images are all set to be 200 pixels by default. And I don't think I have any like responsive settings set on my images, so I think they're just all defaulting to being 200 pixels. And then, yeah, and we can see that's true. And then, to top it all off, Flexbox at the base of it, as we just learned, is going to like try to fit all of the content in, first of all, and then obey the like flex grow and flex basis, second of all. So what Flexbox cares about the most is that your content as it appears is making it into the layout that you defined. And then second of all, obeying your like sizing parameters. So in order to get around this, I think we just need to make our images responsive. And I think we can do that by wrapping them in containers and then setting the container width to something, and then and then setting their like width to 100%. That's how we did it over here. But I'm going to look up Flexbox and then responsive image just to see if there's another trick that we could use. So I'll click on this first. So this looks good. So yes, she wraps it in a container called media, and then she does display flex on the section, and then on media sets a min width of 0, a margin of 5px, and on the image sets the image. Huh. I don't know about that. But I think either way, and then let's look at this one. So this one, figure container. Oh, yeah. So for this one, she's setting each as a background image, and then putting it, so the images are a background image, and then she's setting the width to 100% and the height to 450. Huh. Okay. Well, I would prefer to have the image in there instead of a figure. Like I like being able to like right click to open the image or save the image. I think that's a nice usability thing. So let's go back to our code, and we're going to wrap each of these images in a container, and then we're going to call these each like main dash member image. Okay, so let's wrap this, and we'll say div class, and then main member, and then we'll close that. We'll indent that and that. Okay, and since this just needs to be repeated twice more, we're going to delete these and then just paste it in, because that'll be easier. Okay, so now we have a box wrapping around them. We have this main member thing, and we have the image inside of that. So we can create this, and I'm going to just set the member image equal to 100% of the parent. And I'm going to see how that looks. I don't think it's going to... What? Can you believe that? So it worked. So this is a really cool technique. So I guess what's happening here is that Flexbox on this members container is sizing the individual members, and then inside of that, the image is trying to expand to 100%. And so the div is sized first. And so I think, yeah, that's the way to do responsive images, is always just to wrap it into a container and then set its width to 100% and then size the container. So I think that's something I've learned like a million different times while doing web development. But I think I just keep having to relearn it. Now I wish there was a way to make these buttons equal width with the rest of the profile images. I guess I could give them like exact widths, like all of them, right? Or no, you know what I can do? I can use the same like flex basis trick that I've been doing with all the other ones. So we have the member, and then we have the more button, and then we have the add button. So let's put this in here. Members more button and members add button. And then for each member, we're going to give it a flex basis of 1px. And we'll do this for this too. And then we're going to have the flex property on here. We're going to say grow is okay, shrink is okay. Oh, and the flex basis. So we'll do 1px for that, and then we can get rid of the flex basis. So replace that with that. Okay, now if we refresh, I think these should all be the same size. And if anyone knows a better way of doing this, I would love to hear about it, honestly. Okay, so I think the problem here is that the buttons naturally have padding, so I think they're taking up more space just automatically. But I think that's because we didn't do box sizing border box, which is, if there's one trick I can impart to you, this is the best thing ever when you're starting out a new style sheet, is just add this CSS right here. And what this means is that the size that you give your elements is gonna be exact. So if they have padding, if there's padding on the element, if there's a border on the element, that border and padding is going to be included inside of the element. It's not going to expand the width of the element. So for example, if you set an element to a width of 200 pixels, and then you give it a padding of 10 pixels, all of a sudden it's going to have a width of 220 pixels, even though you set its width explicitly to 200 pixels. But if you have this box sizing border box on everything, um, then I'm going to just do the star. So if you have box sizing border box on everything, then you don't have to worry about that. The width or the height that you give an element is going to be exactly the width and the height that it stays. Okay, so let's refresh this. Oh, geez. So I guess it didn't work exactly because I think this member, let's look at this member. This member has a width of 67, and then this more button, I bet it has a width of more. Yeah, 82. So what's up with that, huh? I don't know what's up with that. Let's just make sure, oops. Let's just make sure that it has the border box applied to it. I thought that that might fix it, but maybe not. Yeah, it has box sizing border box applied to it. Um, well, I don't know. I wonder, okay, let's test this out. So if I remove the padding from these buttons, so if I literally just do like, um, oh, my favorite little reset. So just on everything, we're just going to set the margin to 0 and the padding to 0. Um, and then refresh the page. So now let's inspect this. And now I'm going to be very confused, I bet, because now we have the width of 74 pixels on the button, and on the member, we have a width of 73. Okay, so they're a lot closer now. So it's 73 and 74. I guess I'm still a little curious why the images decided to size themselves smaller than the buttons, even though they all have a flex basis of the same thing, and they all have flex grow and flex shrink equal to 1. I wonder if it's like the content of the button, or maybe it's, oh, you know what I bet it is? I bet it's the border. So let's reset the border too. So let's say border, I think I can just say border none. Let's see if that works. So border none. Senor Rage Quit, how you doing? We're learning about Flexbox right now. Are you working on something related to web development? What are you up to? So I think it was the border. So if we look at this button now, it has a width of 73.59, and if we look at this member, it has 73.59. So that's interesting. So when it's sizing the when Flexbox is sizing its items, it cares about the border and the padding on those items. So if you don't want that border or padding to matter, then just wrap those items in container elements. So for example, if we want to bring back all of our margin and padding, which I'm gonna put back in a second, but I just want to play around with this real quick. So now these buttons are definitely much bigger than these cat photos. If we wanted to get rid of that, what we could do is call this something, let's call this class something a little bit more generic. So yeah, instead of members, we're going to say like uh, horizontal. No, not horizontal. Um, we'll say like block container. I know that's a terrible name, but then it'll let us like call each of these things blocks, and then we can have them all have the same classes, which is just kind of nice. Because then we can wrap these buttons with the same thing, and we don't have to worry about, calling them members too, which is just a nice thing. Because then if we're like reading this code later, or we're like reading the CSS, we don't have to worry about changing the member and thinking it's only going to apply to the members. We'll know that it's referring to something a little bit more generic. Okay, so we'll say this is block container, and we can leave the member image thing. That's fine. And we'll say block for this. Now, if I save that, everything might break, but no, it's fine. Okay, so now we've got these blocks, and I believe they should all be the same size. So if I look at the width of this, it's 73.59, and then this is also 73.59. So now if we want this button to turn into a square, now that's the question. How do we turn this button into a square? Geez, we're just doing like one hard thing after another, huh? So this is the last problem I'm gonna work on before I call it a day. So how to turn a button into a square. I believe there's a thing with like padding aspect ratio. So there's like a padding trick for setting, for like creating an aspect ratio, like making an element maintain its aspect ratio. But I think there's also another thing that recently came out that allows you to maintain the aspect ratio. So this padding trick will work for like videos and images. But I think if I just search for like aspect ratio CSS, it's going to give us something. So object fit. Object fit, method of specifying how an object should fit inside its box. Object fit options include contain, fit according to aspect ratio, fill, stretches object to fill, and cover, overflows box but maintains ratio. When object position allows the object to be repositioned like background image does. Okay, let's look at this object fit thing and see how good the browser support is. So Internet Explorer doesn't work, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. If it has like 90% and above browser compatibility, I'm usually pretty good with it. So let's say, can I use object fit? It's weird that Google knew I was going to search for that. That's super weird, super sneaky. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it has 93% support. So this is cool that I can use this. I've actually never used this before. So let's put object fit on this block. No, not on the block. We want it on the child of every block. So that's going to be a property of the block element is whenever it has a direct child. And by the way, this syntax just means that it's a direct child. So like we're saying block, right? We're just copying that here. And then we're saying if it has a direct child and then any element. The star is just any element. So we're saying any direct child of block is going to have object fit equal to, and I think we want it to be contain. So it's gonna fit with its aspect ratio, but then it's gonna stretch to fit inside of it. So we're gonna say contain. And then I think the other thing we want is display block. And this is so that we can give it an exact width and an exact height. So that we can give it like a width of 10px and a height of 10px. And so this should just make it like a square, right? So this is giving it the aspect ratio that we want it to maintain with object fit, or at least that's what I'm assuming. I've never used this before, so who knows if it'll work. It indeed did not work. Okay, so if we go in here, the image is getting a height, but the width. So I don't know why. So I'm not sure if the object fit is doing anything. Let's see, CSS object fit. Let's see an example of this. Okay, CSS tricks. Object fit cover. Height. Object fit contain. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work very well with Flexbox. The polyfill is a lie. Okay, that's funny. Okay, so I'm not really sure. Maybe we just, no, I think I tried deleting this and it didn't work. So, hey class, how's it going? We're trying to figure out how object fit works, but I don't think it's really working. So we have this button thing, and we have object fit contain on it, and the block has that width, but object fit isn't working. Oh, but I have this flex thing on it. Wait, block. I don't need this flex thing on it. I don't know why I have this flex thing on it. I think it's from an older version when I didn't have blocks. So let's remove that. And, oh, members container. Do I have, I do have members container. So members container, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's save that. I don't think this is going to make that much of a difference. Yeah, so I still have this more button that's inside of this block. The block has this, width and height. So I would think, well, maybe I need a display block on, I don't think I need a display block on this. That's very weird. Maybe I can't use it with certain elements. Or maybe I need to set a width and a height on it. Let's try that. Let's try setting a width and a height on this. So I'll say width 100% and height 100%. And refresh. Woo! Nice! We got 2 blocks. That's awesome. So I don't know why that worked, but I'll take it. Okay. And let's add back in like our little reset up here. So the margin padding border none, and we'll refresh. That kind of looks like what we want. It's not exactly. Maybe if we do like 90 and 90, it'll be better. Yeah, because then they're kind of blocks. I don't know. I'm going to go with that for now. It's not the best CSS I've ever written. It's actually pretty bad. But it's working. It kind of looks how we want it to look. And we can work on it more next time if this is the tutorial we decide to do. Okay, so I hope you learned something. Maybe you learned something a little bit about object fit. Maybe you learned something a little bit about Flexbox and how it cares more about the content before it cares about how it's gonna like size it based on your rules. I wish there was a way that I could override the sizing of Flexbox using like FlexBasis or another property, but it kind of looks like FlexBasis is the best way to do it. And Flexbox is just gonna, try to fit the element in using its content, and then it's gonna care about your FlexBasis. That's at least what it seemed like to me, which is something I didn't really know about yet because I'm not like an expert in Flexbox by any means. And we've got this like search bar that's supposed to stretch across the whole top of the page. So I'll just like make it really long just to make that clear. So I guess that doesn't really make sense to have that. Okay, so I'm going to head out, you guys. I really appreciate you stopping by and watching. If you guys have any feedback, if you want to learn more about Remake.js, if you want to like ask any follow-up questions, I'm Panfora on Twitter. You can reach out to me there. I'm going to be streaming tomorrow, I think from 11 to 1 p.m. That's going to be a shorter stream, but I would appreciate if you guys stop by and we can. I'm going to be mostly focused on Remake.js tomorrow. So I'm going to do a little tutorial, a little walkthrough of Remake.js. We're going to build like an application with it because I'm preparing to show it off to a few of my friends, and I want to see what they think about it. So I'm gonna practice by live streaming a tutorial about it tomorrow. Okay, so I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, and I hope you guys have a really nice evening. Good night.